marketing strategy. How does some of the largest brands in the world, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing budget and revenue, to also the number one digital agency, how do they approach marketing strategy, right? Whether you're a startup or a big company. In this podcast episode, we have on Victor, who's been both on the agency side and also on the individual brand client side, share insights on what it's like, on how to think about your own company, and also how to strategize around your buyer to challenge what you already think of when it comes to your brand, but also having fresh insights. And really, it doesn't matter whether you have 10 years of experience in an industry or coming in fresh. He shares really good insights. And listen till the end.
And I can teach you anything in marketing or a category, but I can't teach you the passion and curiosity and the enthusiasm, because it's either in you or you're not. I can tell you definitively for myself, the majority of my success has never been I'm good at something. It has been, I was so passionate about it, I willed it to success. And I know you can't measure that, but when you look at some of the greatest marketers that are out there, their will to succeed, or entrepreneurs, right? And like Jeff Bezos, his will to succeed and to win in Amazon. You think he's launched a book selling company online ever in his life before? Come on, right? He wouldn't hire him if he was hiring somebody with experience selling books online. And so I think that the note or the answer is that anybody can learn a category. They can't learn curiosity and passion and enthusiasm. And when you have that, you will want to learn and you will want to succeed.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Crowdcreate Podcast, where we bring on thought leaders to share marketing strategy and insights to help your business grow. We have on Victor, and Michael here is one of my co-hosts. Victor, you've had a fantastic career from digital marketing. You worked at the largest digital agency out there, Digitas, and then went on to work in different industries, including automotive, insurance, CPG, and even toys. And so, would love an introduction from you, Victor, and let's get into it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. It was great. Thank you for that. It's always odd when you hear somebody kind of go through your resume a little bit, but it was to say it was all strategized in this career, I would be lying. There was a lot of luck involved, and there was a lot of right place, right time, and right time in terms of the marketplace. But I've been very fortunate that half my almost 30 years was spent in the big agency side, like you mentioned, as well as on the client side. And I think it presented a very valuable experience, whether it was Hasbro, big toy company, or Kellogg's, as I was CMO of RXBar, or even when I was CMO of Kin Insurance, a D2C insurance company, and then the agencies I've been at, from Digitas, as you mentioned, as well as most recently Advantage Unified Commerce, which jumped on to this massive shift right now, retail media networks. So I'm very fortunate to have hit upon all the trends as they started in my marketing career.
Nice. And so, Victor, when you look back on your marketing career, being on the agency side, and we're talking, right, the largest digital agency in terms of revenue, and then going on the client side, like what are some of the biggest takeaways and even marketing insights and strategies that you've kind of, learned?
I love this question because a lot of people would ask me this privately. So now I'm going to expose my answer publicly to everybody. What I learned when I left Digitas and went to Hasbro, which was the first client side job, I was, when I started Hasbro, I was the VP of digital marketing. Here's what I quickly learned. Agencies have no idea how brands work. They think they know, but they have no idea. And so this dynamic of clients are dumb, they don't understand us, versus the other dynamic of clients saying our agencies just aren't good enough. They are both right and both wrong at the same time. Because when you're on the brand side, the notion that all you do all day is think about the brand and the marketing is wrong. you probably think about the brand and marketing 25% of the time. The other 75% is administrative work in terms of the budget, the finance, the operations. It is, how do I get 2 million units on a boat to get to Walmart by Christmas season? It is, what are the margins going to be compressed to? Because now that we need to find a different type of silicon or plastic to put into an action figure, right? If you're a product owner and a brand owner, you think about that. And then what happens when suddenly your TV show doesn't perform as well as you want it to because it's supposed to sell toys, or your movie doesn't perform? You're thinking about that as well. And agencies say, all right, you have a product, let me make a really good commercial and all boats will rise. Well, have you ever made a commercial for a toy product? It is one of the most regulated industries out there. You can't have Optimus Prime or Bumblebee toy drive onto a screen and transform on its own and start talking, because a kid, a 6-year-old, will see that and say, I want that toy. It drove by itself and it talks to me. False advertising. So when you watch a toy ad, when you see hands everywhere and kids, that's not because it's cool to have kids in there. It is, but it's also because legally you have to show the toy doesn't move by itself. It doesn't build itself. Assembly required. Like, but now you got a big award-winning agency that says, I would love to get my hands on Mattel, Lego, or Hasbro because they're iconic brands. And then the creative directors don't think about, what do I need to do? And then they present this, Optimus saves the world, it does this. And then the brand people look, it's like, you have no idea how to work in our industry. So what I learned is that both sides, whether it's brand and agency, they need to take time to understand what goes about their day. Like, what's important, like what matters, like what if somebody were to say to me, an agency, say, all right, list out everything you're thinking about right now. And I was running digital marketing. Only a small portion of that would have to do with digital marketing. But the agency thinks all he does, or she does, or he in my case, is digital marketing. So let me think about the website. Let me think about social media. Let me think about mobile. Let me think about creative. Let me think about content creation. Yeah, that's not my day. My day is filled with everything else. That's what happens on the client side. And I think that's the biggest misnomer from back when I started at Hasbro in 2011, even to today, 13 years later. Still a miss.
Wow. Is there a framework that you think that agencies and clients, like the moment they've been there, begin their relationship, in terms of getting to know each other, like how do you even see it now after your decades of just experience?
See, I may not be the best person to ask this, because I'm the anti Mad Men, Don Draper agency client model, right? I'm not the wine and dine person, right? I'm not the person that needs it. There was an agency once when I was at Hasbro, and I was going to South by, and I was keynoting at South by as well that year. And I remember the agency said, hey, we're going to send all these people down here. This person will be with you the whole time, the whole 4 days I was down there. And I said, well, why is that person? They're like, well, it's good to have an agency person with you just in case you need anything. And I said to them, I appreciate that, but I'm a grown-ass man. Like, if I don't know how to feed myself, if I don't know how to go to the back room, if I don't know how to shake somebody's hand or get a meeting, then I shouldn't be in the position I'm in. I'd rather you, if you're going to send your agency people down to South by, have them learn something, have them do something, but they should not babysit me. And I don't need them to buy me dinner. I don't need them to buy me drinks. I don't need them to get me inside a party or anything like that. I don't need that. What I need is somebody thinking about the business and challenging and pushing. Now, if they sat in a session and then they met up with me and said, I sat in the session and I heard that X, Y, and Z, and it's intriguing, then I'm all in. But if somebody's there to just say, hey, Victor, you got 5 minutes to get to your next meeting, interview, or speech, then I need to live and die by my sword in my decision, but I shouldn't be paying a retainer for somebody to handhold. So I think what I would say is that the dynamic has to change, where, and I hate to use buzzwords, but you gotta understand where my business is and find out where you fit in and where the value you're bringing. The value isn't, and again, a pet peeve of mine, when I was a client, an agency there was news, something happened on TikTok, making it up, right? Something happened on TikTok. I read about it because I'm surfing the web, and people still say surfing the web. I'm not sure. I was on the web and I was read about it. And an hour later, I get forwarded this email that went to like my entire staff, say interesting news from TikTok today. And I called the president up, and I wasn't mean about it, but I said, I don't need your staff spending time on the internet reading the same thing I just read an hour ago and then sending a long-winded email with thoughts on it. I'd write, if they're going to find it first, find it first. But if they're going to really have an impact, then don't regurgitate stuff I can find on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of the dynamics are breaking, is they think that's value sometimes. Not all agencies, but some do. They think that's value. And maybe some clients don't have time to do that. So I'm only speaking from personal standpoint.
Wow.
Since you've been on like both ends of it, the marketing director side and the agency side, if we had to draw like a Venn diagram, what are the characteristics of the best relationship then that works for both parties to get the best results?
And Michael, I love that. I try to do this at every client side I've had, and I use the same kind of stump speech that I just gave you guys on that, and saying, if you guys want to work with us, you have to understand entirely what we, or me in this case, is responsible for and accountable for the company. And you need to understand what I'm being held against, because the agency sometimes thinks they're being held against good creative or good marketing or good media buying, because that's what the scope says. But what's missing is all the variables that factor into those responsibilities, or what the scope is, but aren't often thought about and waste time. So an example would be, if we were launching a product, let's say a RXBar, if it was a flavor, like a box of 12 used to run $29.99, right? You would take out what you would charge a retailer, right? Walmart would pay a certain price, Target would pay a certain price, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. Now you're dealing with what the margins are. Within that margin, we have a percentage in our head of how much of that $29.99 sale, or let's say, making the numbers up, right? I forget what it is, $18, which is what the cost is that we sold it to the retailer for. We have to say, what percentage of that do we want to spend against selling that one box, right? Hasbro, they called it an A to S ratio, an advertising to sales ratio. Some people call it whatever it is. There's a whole host of words to use. Now, if I have that percentage in mind, and let's say it's 5%, if it was 5% against the $16, right, now you're looking at 5% against that, you're looking at 80 cents is what I had to spend to sell that box. Now, when an agency comes and says, what's your budget? Well, I think it's 80 cents. So let's say it's 1 million of those. So it's $800,000 to sell 1 million boxes. You think any agency is going to say, wow, that I can't do that for $800,000. But I had this great idea for $4 million, and it includes the Super Bowl ad. That's the disconnect. They have to understand that at the client side, there isn't this, a manager of mine used to say this to me on at Hasbro when people used to ask for money, and he'd say, let me go into the magical effing box of money I have in my corner and give it to you. There isn't. But that's the dynamic that is still not there. So the best relationships, Michael, is when they actually take the time, and the clients take the time to say, this is how we operate. There was an agency at Hasbro that said, we have a great idea. We're going to sticker all the toys with a QR code. And they thought it was the best idea in the world. And we said, all the toys are on a boat, which means you're going to have to hire people when that boat lands on a dock, print the stickers and put it on. And by the way, legally, when you have a promotion like that, there needs to be a life cycle of that promotion. In case that toy 5 years later ends up in an island in the Caribbean because it was sold over there and unopened, and a kid scans that, you still have to have that promotion up. So we looked at the agency, it's like, is that what we really want to do at this stage of time? That we want to do that and that cost? And they got mad at us. Like, you're just trying to kill the idea. No, we just feasibly can't do that operationally or financially. If people understand that, then you work within those parameters, that's what makes it work.
Wow. So, Victor, One of your previous gigs was working at an insurance company that was trying to disrupt the massive insurance industry. So when other companies are doing Super Bowl ads and they're spending just millions and millions of dollars, how do you compete if that's the dynamic? This is how you operate. So how do you market against these massive giants in any industry?
Well, it was for Kin Insurance. They're out of Chicago. They were I don't know if they're still a startup because they're probably about 5 years old, but they're a pure play D2C. And I had to learn the insurance industry. I knew nothing about it, but I learned a lot about it. So they're a reciprocal insurance agency, D2C, pure play, which means, and I think what you're going into, Jeffrey, is the big players like the State Farms of the world or the Geico's. Well, if you look into it, most of those big companies don't sell insurance. They sell that lead to somebody else who insures you. So they are the marketing engine that drives it. But ask yourself, anybody who's listening, and even yourself, Michael or Jeffrey, if you've signed up for an insurance company or a loan, the company that you signed up for, are they really the one servicing you? Look into it. You realize, oh, it actually wasn't. It was sold off to somebody else, because the business of insuring is expensive because you take on the risk management. The business of selling a lead for somebody who wants insurance, big money, no risk. And so what Kin did was both. They didn't outsource their agents. If you walked into the strip mall to an insurance company, local Jeffrey Insurance Co., you're not bound by any insurance company. You can sell me an insurance to anybody who gives you the best commission or best offer. Kin did was they owned every input. There was no outside sales agent that picked Kin over somebody else or could pick Amico or anybody else. They had their own, but it was pure play. You couldn't just call up an agent to buy insurance. You had to go through their website, which was unheard of. The reason why, and this is your question of how do you disrupt it? The reason why is Kin built a business on technology. I would argue, and I think the founder, Sean Harper, would say, they're not an insurance company. They're kind of insure tech, but they're really a tech company. They went into states people didn't want to insure. Florida was the first state. Hardest state to insure. Natural disaster area. They went in there because they understood that when you went into the website and you inputted your information, their technology knew how insurable your house was. Also understood your insurance will go up because your roof needs repair. If you repair the roof, this insurance, your premium will go down. And here's what happens. Here's what you need to get. All this stuff. Laid it all out. Could it be a little bit more expensive if you got somebody else? Yes. But do you have peace of mind that you are covered? Yeah. Now, as the big insurance companies, if you look in Florida, they left Florida. It was unviable for them. Now, you look at Kin, private company, and they're in like Series E or Series F. Viable, profitable, high revenue, because they know the right audience and the needs, and they built technology to change insurance. They didn't get into the insurance business. They changed the insurance business via technology.
Wow. So it's really coming about or highlighting the differentiation of what you have, say, versus, and rather than competing on what they, there's just the Jake with State Farms, these massive Super Bowl commercials, and just finding your niche. And then you hinted on it earlier. It's really about strategizing around your buyer. And so how would you strategize around your buyer across those multiple industries, right? Doesn't matter if it's toys, if it's CPG, the bar that you're eating in the morning, or your insurance, or you choosing a car. Like, how do you think about the buyer?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's 2 points to that. The first one is companies and brands, and I would challenge all your listeners to pressure test this. Just go on LinkedIn, and whether you're looking for a job or not, right, just look for a role on the brand side and in a category. You will see that there's a pretty staple of mandates that will always say 10 years of food experience, 5 years of beverage experience, 10 years of alcohol bev experience, automotive, hotel, hospitality, all of this stuff. Because there's a safety net that says, well, if you know how to work in the hotel industry, you'll be good here. But the reality is, to what you're saying there, it's really about It's not really about the category you're in. It's about how do you motivate the people that want to buy your category. And I will say definitively, when I was put on the General Motors account at Digitas, I had no automotive experience. When I went to Hasbro, I had A, no toy experience, B, no client side experience. Then I became CMO of RXBar, zero food experience, right? CPG could have been argued that toy was, but it's not really, right? They're a manufacturer. It's not really a consumer packaging. So I became a CMO of a multi-$100 million brand owned by Kellogg's that they paid $600 million for. And I didn't know how a food was made. But what I understood was what motivated people to buy things. And all I had to do, which I learned in all those categories, insurance, sorry, jump back after RXBar insurance, no insurance experience. And the key, and I'm speaking as a focus group of one, the key wasn't a, oh my goodness moment, I don't know this category. And I think the key was for every one of those companies, thank goodness they bet on me not knowing the category. Because what I did know was, can I motivate a parent to buy their kid that toy? What are the underlying motivations? What do they care about? And the strategy, you're absolutely right, is really what matters. Like I'll give you an example. It was a toy example for Elmo. We were launching a Elmo product, and as you know, Elmo is a license from Sesame Street. And there's always a new Elmo every year, right? It used to be the Tickle Me Elmo, all this stuff. So Hasbro had a new product called the Let's Rock Elmo. Elmo plays a guitar, plays a drum. The website that was created was called Furry Red Rocker, which I don't understand why, because the website didn't represent the name of the product. And the commercial was screaming Furry Red Rocker and all these things. Well, if you think about the most common denominator, don't be an MBA brand marketer. Fancy URL, flashes for half a second at the end, a commercial that plays on a kid's channel that the kid is watching, but the parent probably is not watching with them, standing on the side. So why would you name the URL Furry Red Rocker when the name of the product is called Let's Rock Elmo, A, but B, the toy was aimed for, let's say, 1 to 4 year old, not a large vocabulary. You know what the #1 search term was in Google? New Elmo. Not Furry Red Rocker, not Let's Rock Elmo, New Elmo. Because the only thing a kid understands is there's a new Elmo on TV. So what does the kid tell their parent? New Elmo.
Wow.
We didn't buy that search term.
Yeah. In the world of, previously having these focus groups and now using AI in marketing and using AI to be able to just instantly pull up research, maybe even able to storyboard and brainstorm. And how do you see AI being used in marketing?
I think it's too soon to tell. I laugh at this because my opinion on it is, yes, AI is important. It's a technology. It's never going to go away. But we're treating it like we treated it when cell phones became smartphones. It's like, what's your mobile marketing strategy? Somebody used to say that to me. What's your mobile marketing strategy? Then 5 years later, what's your social media strategy? Then what's your content strategy? And my answer is the same all along, and it'll be the same for AI. I don't have an AI strategy, as I didn't have a mobile marketing strategy. I have a marketing strategy. Now, if AI is inside of it, that's fine. But why would I create a separate lane to that? That only makes it working harder in terms of my staff or my strategy or anything else. Now, where I see where AI is going, and like you said before, can it help on the research side? Yes. Can it help brainstorm a little bit? Yes. Does it completely replace something? It will never replace anything 100%. It enables, it could stimulate, it can give a point of view that you normally wouldn't get, but it definitely does not replace anything. I don't believe it does. Not right now. Now, could it have a functionality when combined with something like machine learning and make technology smarter? Oh, 100%. Like if I was in the agency world right now or in the brand world, pull your CTO aside and say, develop a technology, an algorithm that uses all our sales and marketing and use AI machine learning that allows us inputs that can provide predictive behaviors with a 75%+ confidence, you've just changed the game right there. But people are looking at AI in the creative front of line, like in front of the people. Nobody's looking at it as, it might not need the headline and the billboard, but it absolutely can be a game changer if used the right way.
That's an interesting insight, because as you were talking, I was thinking about from the Tickle Me Elmo thing is, how do you gain those insights about human behavior without experience? And how do we train either people or AI to understand this weird human behavior that's outside of the data?
Now you're absolutely right, Michael. Now go back to the Elmo days, right? What I did was I went to Google Trends after Christmas, right? When sales, I was like, top trending keywords under Elmo, new Elmo, through the roof. Our name and brand all the way down. Tickle Me Elmo, which was one of the most famous ones, which Mattel had the license with, not Hasbro, indexed higher. And then to me, was that AI or machine learning? You can call it whatever you want to call it, but it was an insight. Now, can we make that insight better, faster, automated, and more confident? That's where I think that gets my blood flowing in terms of what you just said there, Michael. And absolutely. Can you imagine somebody saying, here are the keywords I've seen last 30, 60, 90 days that index here. And by the way, we also learned that competitors do it. Now my mind is blown. Now I feel like I am ahead of the race.
Wow. It was great. Your thinking, Victor, really just disrupts, where most people kind of lean on experience as opposed to having skill and just understanding marketing strategy. So this is fantastic. Yeah, just in closing, Victor, anything that you want to leave, would be marketers, brand owners, and agencies, and just like kind of thoughts to think about?
Yeah, I would say for most in the industry or brands or anything else, and depending on where you are in your level, fear of doing something is self-inflicted, right? We tell ourselves there's a monster under the bed. We tell ourselves ghosts exist, and it scares us. So we tell ourselves, if I take a chance on TikTok when it just started, or Snapchat, or doing AI, and it fails, we just told ourselves it failed. So I'm not saying risk all your budget. What's 1% of $1 million, right? $10,000. Spend that. You won't miss it. 10% of that. You might miss it a little bit, but you will always regret not doing it. And then you will make yourself feel good when you do it after the fact somebody else did, just so you can say you were part of the party. And in this race we're in right now, where every single day something is changing in our landscape in the marketing world and everybody's getting better, you have opportunity to wait, but you also have better opportunities to jump in first because somebody else is already doing it. And what I would tell people is, don't take a dumb risk, take a calculated one, but don't let fear of the unknown be the reason why you didn't do it, because you will regret that.
Fantastic. Victor, Michael, anything on your end in closing?
Well, I think we gathered some great insight today.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks everyone. And if you have any questions about marketing strategy, go ahead and put it in the comments section. And Victor, we'd love to have you back on and just share more insights.
This is great. Thank you. I appreciate it.